The alien princess's biggest dream was to mate with a man. The crystalline towers of Illyria rose into the sky like frozen lightning, their surfaces shimmering with colors that shifted whenever the wind whispered across them. Inside the highest tower, the princess stood before a wide arc of transparent alloy that served as her window. She pressed her palm against it and watched the city breathe below. Airships gliding between spires, energy bridges curving like ribbons of light, and citizens with ears as long and elegant as her own drifting in slow, ceremonial rhythm through the floating plazas. To everyone else she was serene, composed, the jewel of Illyria's throne. In truth she was restless, her heart racing faster than the hovercrafts that zipped beneath her chambers. She had learned long ago to mask her desires behind the cool posture of royalty. It wasn't difficult. Most Illyrians believed in restraint so much that even laughter during council meetings was frowned upon. She often imagined what would happen if she suddenly burst into giggles during one of the high priest's endless sermons. Her ears twitched just thinking of their horrified faces. Her secret weighed on her. Not war strategies, not trade disputes, not even the persistent problem of orbital pirates. No, her burden was far stranger. For years she had dreamed of something her people whispered about only in scandal and myth, a bond with a human man. The notion was absurd to Illyrian science, laughable to their elders. They viewed humans as erratic, primitive, and tragically short-lived. The princess, however, had read everything she could about them. Their songs, their battles, their clumsy experiments with spaceflight. Each detail fascinated her. She longed not just to observe but to touch, to laugh with one, to share in a kind of intimacy no Illyrian had ever dared admit aloud. She sighed and let her gaze drift upward. The skies above Illyria shimmered with shifting auroras caused by the planet's magnetic shield. Beyond them lay the vast silence of space. Some nights she swore it whispered to her, teasing her with promises. Tonight the whisper felt stronger, as if the cosmos were leaning close. That was when the alarm klaxons blared. She startled, nearly tangling her long ears in her jeweled headdress. Outside, streaks of fire tore across the atmosphere, a trail of smoke spiraling toward the surface. Illyrian defense crafts darted into formation, their sleek hulls flashing warnings across the city's luminous sky. Citizens paused mid-stride, pointing upward with wide eyes. The princess leaned forward, squinting. A vessel, no, a wreck, was plunging toward the plains beyond the capital. Sparks trailed from its engines, chunks of metal scattering like confetti. It spun, tumbled, and for one breathless moment she wondered if it would strike the palace itself. At the last instant it veered, slamming into the meadowlands in a plume of dirt and steam. Finally, she murmured, pulse pounding. Something unscripted. Minutes later, she strode down the palace's gleaming halls, robes swishing as startled attendants hurried after her. The High Steward called her name, begging her to wait for the council's approval, but she ignored him. Approval meant delay, and delay meant someone else would reach the crash first. She wasn't about to lose her chance. The meadow still smoldered when she arrived. Illyrian guards surrounded the wreck, weapons raised, though most looked more confused than threatened. The vessel was crewed by Illyrian standards, angular plates bolted together, wires dangling, scorch marks covering its sides. It reminded her of the toy models she used to break as a child, except this one was life-sized and smelled like burning oil. Then the hatch groaned open. A figure stumbled out, coughing, armor dented, hair plastered with sweat and soot. He wobbled, tripped over a loose panel, and landed face first in the grass with a grunt. The guards stiffened, aiming their lances. The princess raised her hand sharply. "Lower your weapons." The man groaned, rolling onto his back. He squinted up at the tall, long-eared being surrounding him. "Great. Either I'm dead, or I just crashed into a fashion show for elves." The princess's lips twitched. She fought the urge to laugh. It would be entirely inappropriate, of course, but the sound escaped anyway, a soft snort that startled her guards more than the intruder had. She stepped closer, studying him. His features were rougher than Illyrian's, his body shorter, but there was no mistaking what he was. Human. Her heart stumbled like his spaceship had. The man sat up, wincing as he rubbed his shoulder. "Look, whoever's in charge, I'd like to file a complaint. Your planet needs better parking signs." This time the princess did laugh, the sound bright and unrestrained. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, ears twitching in confusion. She knelt gracefully, ignoring the dust that clung to her robes. "You've come far, human. Do you know where you've landed?" "Judging by the welcome committee, I'd guess Disneyland, but with more lasers." He squinted at her, eyes lingering on the silver arcs of her ears. "And you're the queen of the elves, right?" "Princess," she corrected, smiling despite herself. "And I assure you, not an elf." "Right. Big difference." He tried to stand, stumbled again, then gave up and sat cross-legged in the grass. "So, do I get arrested now, or is there a gift shop first?" The princess tilted her head, ears catching the fading hum of his ship's dying engines. The cosmos had answered her restless whispers with smoke, fire, and sarcasm wrapped in human form. Her people would see him as a problem, perhaps even a threat. But she, trembling inside, saw him as something else entirely. Possibility. She extended her hand. "Come with me." The guards gasped, but she ignored them. The human stared at her palm for a long moment, then smirked. "Well, you're definitely prettier than my last rescuer." She was a robot with terrible bedside manners. He placed his rough hand in hers, and in that simple contact, the princess felt the first spark of her forbidden dream ignite. Above them, the auroras shimmered brighter, as if the skies themselves were laughing. The palace healers insisted the human remain under observation for 3 cycles, a decision that caused him to groan dramatically as though sentenced to hard labor. He lay sprawled on a floating cot in the infirmary, refusing to believe it wasn't trying to shake him off every time it hummed. "This thing has an attitude," he muttered, gripping the edges whenever it adjusted height. "I've fought pirates, raiders, and once a very angry vending machine, but this bed is the most dangerous enemy yet." The princess, seated beside him with her hands folded neatly, bit her lip to hide her smile. Her guard stood rigid nearby, ears flicking in silent disapproval. They didn't understand why she spent so much time here. A princess had duties: to attend council meetings, oversee energy flow calibrations, and nod gracefully at long speeches about agricultural efficiency. Instead she returned, again and again, to watch the human war with his furniture. He had told her his name, Kalen, though his pronunciation shifted slightly each time, as if he hadn't fully decided how it should sound. He explained, with a grin that made her ears twitch, that he was a mercenary, though he preferred the term freelance hero for hire. The Illyrian scribes looked scandalized when she repeated this to them, muttering that such professions were primitive and dangerous. She couldn't help it. She found his lack of restraint refreshing. On the second cycle, Kalen attempted to eat Illyrian cuisine. The healers brought him a tray of starfruit spheres, each glowing faintly and humming like tiny engines. He poked one with suspicion. "Your food is singing." "That's not normal where I come from." "It's perfectly nutritious," the princess assured him. He bit into it, chewed, then froze. "It tastes like happiness, and also maybe laundry detergent." He swallowed, then added, "If I die from alien fruit poisoning, I expect a very fancy funeral." When his stomach growled ominously an hour later, the princess doubled over laughing while Kalen demanded the location of the nearest waste chute. The guards pretended not to hear, though their ears quivered at the undignified noise. By the 3rd cycle, he was strong enough to walk the palace halls, though walk was a generous word. He tripped over an energy cable, collided with a servant carrying a tray of glowing crystal goblets, and finally ended up sprawled at the princess's feet, blinking up at her as if this had been his plan all along. "See, I told you I'd fall for you eventually." She rolled her eyes but helped him up, her hand lingering longer than necessary. The warmth of his skin against hers felt strange, grounding, and entirely unlike the cool touch of Illyrians. Her pulse betrayed her, quickening, though she disguised it by teasing him about his lack of balance. Kalen seemed endlessly fascinated by Illyrian wonders, though not in the way she expected. He ignored the great libraries of light, dismissing them as holographic bragging, and instead poked at the palace's cleaning drones until one sprayed him with disinfectant. He laughed so hard he couldn't stand, claiming the robot had finally found its purpose in life. The princess followed him on these meanderings, torn between amusement and terror at what new chaos he might unleash. Yet every joke, every clumsy step, peeled away her careful mask. For the first time, she wasn't a flawless symbol of her people. She was simply herself, laughing in corridors that had known only solemn echoes. Of course, word of her behavior spread quickly. Illyrian courtiers whispered behind jeweled fans, ears twitching in shock. The council requested her presence, cloaking their outrage in polite phrases. "It is unseemly," they told her, "for royalty to associate so intimately with an off-worlder. His lifespan is a blink compared to ours. His customs crude, his biology unstable." She listened in silence, head bowed. But when one elder muttered that humans were little more than cosmic accidents, her laughter burst forth before she could stop it. "If he is an accident," she said, "then perhaps he is the most delightful one I have ever known." The council gasped, ears rigid with horror. They reminded her of sacred codes, of traditions etched into the meteor stones. She bowed again, but her smile lingered. Their rules had always felt heavy. Kalen's presence made them seem absurd. That evening, she found him on a balcony, leaning against the rail as the auroras shimmered overhead. He was humming tunelessly, tapping the rhythm on the rail as if conducting an invisible orchestra. "Do all humans sing to metal?" she asked, joining him. "Only the lucky ones," he said, grinning. "Besides, your balcony needed a soundtrack." He studied her face, his gaze direct in a way no Illyrian would dare. "You laugh differently here than you did in the infirmary. Freer." Her ears warmed. "Laughter is not encouraged among my people. It is considered undignified." "Then dignity sounds boring." He shrugged, then added with mock seriousness, "Don't worry. Stick with me long enough, and I'll ruin your reputation completely." She laughed again, helpless against him. For a moment, the council, the codes, the burden of her crown all fell away. All that remained was the forbidden spark between them, dangerous yet intoxicating. Somewhere deep within the palace, alarms hummed softly, signaling the council's growing unease. But on the balcony, under the cosmic lights, the princess leaned closer to the man who had turned her world upside down with jokes, clumsy steps, and the possibility of a dream she had thought impossible. The council summoned her at dawn, their message delivered with the kind of solemnity usually reserved for planetary emergencies or the misplacement of sacred relics. The princess entered the chamber with her head high, her long ears adorned with silver bands that glimmered faintly under the crystalline light. 12 elders sat in a circle, their expressions grave, though one of them kept twitching his ear nervously as if it were trying to escape. The high elder spoke first, his voice low and deliberate. "You have been seen wandering the palace with a human, laughing, sharing meals, allowing him to wander unchecked through our sacred halls. This is unprecedented." The princess kept her composure. Unprecedented does not always mean dangerous. The elder narrowed his eyes. Humans are impulsive, short-lived, and crude. Their biology is unstable, their customs chaotic. Already he has disrupted the palace drones, corrupted the dignity of our corridors, and, he coughed delicately, triggered 3 fire alarms. She almost smiled at the memory. Kalen had insisted on testing an Illyrian food-warming unit, which ended with flames, smoke, and his declaration that he had just invented space barbecue. "I see no harm," she said softly. Another elder leaned forward, ears sharp. "No harm? You know the ancient codes. Union with humans is forbidden. Such a bond weakens the purity of our line, diminishes the harmony of Illyria." She answered with steady calm, though her heart raced. "Perhaps harmony has become silence. Perhaps we have mistaken stillness for strength." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The elders conferred in whispers, their ears flicking like restless metronomes. At last, the high elder delivered his verdict. "You are forbidden to see him again. He will be escorted off-world once his vessel is repaired. For the good of Illyria, this is final." The words pressed against her chest like cold iron. She bowed, concealing her fury, and left the chamber with measured steps. She found Kalen in the gardens, crouched beside a bioluminescent shrub that pulsed gently with light. He poked it and jumped back when it emitted a startled squeak. Okay, note to self, your plants have opinions. This one disapproves of me. She told him what the council had decided. He frowned, then shrugged in that infuriatingly casual human way. Figures. Every time I meet someone amazing, there's always a committee ready to ruin it. At least they didn't sentence me to death. Yet. Her voice dropped. They intend to send you away. Then I'll go, he said, though his eyes betrayed reluctance. I've been kicked out of worse places. Once an asteroid casino banned me for life after I accidentally won the owner's ship. You joke too easily, she murmured, though part of her loved him for it. He reached for her hand. That's because if I stop joking, I'll realize how much I don't want to leave. She squeezed his hand, ears trembling with the weight of her choice. Then perhaps you will not. Their secret meetings became bolder after that. They slipped into the star libraries at midnight, sitting beneath endless streams of light, while Kalen tried to read Illyrian glyphs aloud, mispronouncing them so badly the walls themselves shuddered in protest. They walked the plasma gardens, where the air hummed with contained lightning, and he dared her to race him across the glowing bridges. When she pointed out Illyrians never ran in public, he sprinted anyway, yelling that dignity was overrated. She chased after him, laughing until her ribs ached. But their joy could not remain hidden. Servants whispered. Guards shifted uncomfortably. One morning, the High Elder appeared unannounced outside her chambers, catching her with Kalen mid-laughter as he balanced a ceremonial helmet on his head, like a cooking pot. The Elder's ears stiffened in horror. Princess, this is unbecoming. Kalen tilted the helmet rakishly. I call it fashion fusion. You're welcome. The Elder nearly fainted. Later, when the princess and Kalen escaped to the sky balconies, she pressed her forehead against the cold alloy railing, struggling with the weight of her defiance. If I continue, I risk everything. My throne, my people's trust. Kalen leaned beside her, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. And if you stop? She closed her eyes. Then I lose myself. Silence stretched, broken only by the hum of passing airships. Then he nudged her elbow. Well, for what it's worth, I think losing yourself with me would be more fun. Less paperwork, too. She laughed, the sound shaky but real. The next day, whisper spread of the council drafting a decree of exile, not just for Kalen, but for her, should she refuse to obey. The threat hung over them like the shadow of a warship. Yet when she looked at him, his grin lopsided, his humor unbreakable, the fear dimmed. She realized then that her forbidden dream was no longer a secret wish. It was alive, walking beside her, and no decree could unmake it. The day the decree was announced, the palace bells rang in tones so deep they rattled the crystalline towers. Citizens gathered in the plazas, ears perked to hear the Elder's proclamation. From the balcony, the princess stood with the council, her face calm though her pulse thundered. The High Elder raised a staff carved from meteor stone. By ancient code, the human intruder must depart Illyria. If the princess refuses this command, she too will be stripped of title and exiled beyond the star borders. Gasps swept through the crowd. Kalen, standing at the edge with two guards hovering nervously beside him, gave a little wave. Hi, yes, that's me. Intruder extraordinaire. Honestly, I'd prefer the title distinguished guest. But sure. The princess fought the urge to laugh at his audacity. Instead, she turned to the council, her voice sharp enough to slice through the air. If exile is the price for truth, then I accept it. Chaos erupted. Citizens shouted, guards tightened ranks, and the High Elder nearly dropped his staff. Kalen blinked, then muttered, Wait, you're serious? I thought we were still in the angry speech part, not the throw away your throne part. She lifted her chin. I will not abandon you. Moments later, they were running. Guards shouted, but the princess moved with surprising swiftness, her long ears streaming behind her as she pulled Kalen through hidden corridors. He tripped twice, once over his own boots and once over a decorative gravity well, but she yanked him up each time. Remind me, he panted. Why are we escaping like fugitives instead of calmly debating like civilized people? Because civilized people, she said, would never understand. They burst into the docking bay, alarms blaring. Illyrian ships stirred like hornets, their hulls gleaming with lethal grace. Kalen whistled. So, those are definitely not welcome wagons. She pointed to a small skimmer at the far end. That one. It's fast, unregistered, and very stubborn. Like you. The skimmer accepted her touch, its systems flaring awake. Kalen scrambled inside, immediately pressing every glowing button he could reach. The craft lurched sideways, smashing into a fuel column. "Stop touching things," she cried, shoving him aside to take control. "Just testing the features," he protested, clinging to the seat as the skimmer shot out of the bay, narrowly missing a squad of pursuit craft. Beams of concentrated light streaked past them, illuminating the skies like a disco gone wrong. Kalen laughed, wild and exhilarated. "They're trying to kill us with party lasers." The chase tore across Illyria skies, weaving between energy bridges and crystalline towers. Citizens scattered, pointing upward at the spectacle. Kalen leaned over her shoulder, shouting instructions that made no sense. "Left. No other left. Watch out for that, never mind. It's just a giant floating statue of your face." She gritted her teeth, ears flat with concentration, and dove the skimmer into the bioluminescent forests beyond the city. The canopy swallowed them, glowing leaves brushing their hull as the pursuing ships hesitated. They crashed down in a clearing, smoke billowing from the engines. Kalen crawled out, coughing, and collapsed onto the glowing grass. 10 out of 10 landing. Would fly again. She stepped out, trying not to laugh as relief flooded her chest. They were alive. Exiles hunted but alive. The forest hummed around them, trees pulsing with light. Kalen stared wide-eyed. "Your plants are bioluminescent. And humming. If one of them starts giving life advice, I'm leaving." As if in response, a nearby tree vibrated and produced a low note that sounded suspiciously like a sigh. Kalen pointed. "See, that one's already judging me." She shook her head, but her laughter broke free, echoing through the alien forest. In the days that followed, they traveled deeper into Illyria's hidden places, places even the Council had forgotten. Underground cities of abandoned machines still whispered poetry in static. Caverns glittered with crystals that stored memories, replaying ancient arguments about crop rotation whenever touched. Kalen teased her relentlessly, claiming the entire planet was conspiring to entertain him. At night, they lay beneath skies heavy with auroras. She confessed her fears in whispers, fears of losing her people, her purpose, her crown. He answered with humor that never diminished the seriousness, but made the weight easier to bear. "Maybe your people will remember you as the princess who broke all the rules," he said one evening, hands folded behind his head. "Or maybe they'll just remember me as the guy who introduced you to sarcasm." She leaned close, ears brushing his shoulder. "Either way, they will remember." But even as they laughed, the hum of distant engines reached them, a reminder that pursuit was never far behind. The Council would not forgive, nor would they forget. And yet, sitting beside Kalen, her laughter unrestrained, the princess realized she no longer feared what was to come. The dream she had carried in silence was no longer a fragile wish. It was alive, stronger with every shared joke, every step into the unknown. If exile was their fate, then they would meet it together, with humor, with defiance, and with the stars themselves as witnesses. The pursuit ended at the edge of Illyria, where the world touched the stars. A bridge of pure energy arched across the void, woven from the planet's magnetic field and centuries of Illyrian engineering. It shimmered, alive, as if daring them to cross. The princess and Kalen stood before it, their skimmer wheezing its last breaths behind them, while the hum of pursuing ships grew louder. Kalen squinted at the radiant bridge. "So, that's not just a fancy cosmic walkway, right? Please tell me it doesn't collapse if someone steps on the wrong spot." "It will hold," she said, though her voice carried more faith than certainty. Behind them, beams of light slashed through the sky as Illyrian ships emerged from the clouds. The princess turned, her ears standing tall. "They will not stop until we surrender." Kalen folded his arms. "Then we don't surrender. Worst case, We go down in history as the couple who invented cosmic cliff diving." The princess almost laughed, though her chest ached. She took his hand, steadying herself. "Kalen, I have carried this dream for so long, hidden it, feared it. To be with a human was forbidden, impossible. Yet here you stand, more impossible than all their laws combined. If I must choose between a kingdom and this—" She touched his cheek, her voice breaking. "I choose this." For once, Kalen was silent. Then he grinned, a crooked, weary grin. "I should have guessed. My charm always outranks thrones." The pursuing ships descended, surrounding the clearing in a web of light. The High Elder's voice boomed from an amplified channel. "Princess, step away from the human. Return to us, and you will be forgiven. Continue this folly, and both of you will be erased from Illyria's memory." Kalen leaned close, muttering, "Wow, they're really bad at wedding speeches." The princess stepped forward, raising her voice so it carried across the sky. "You speak of memory, of codes, of fear. But Illyria has forgotten what it means to feel, to laugh, to risk. If you erase me, you erase the truth I have found, that love is no weakness, but the greatest strength." The crowd below, citizens gathered in the plazas to watch, erupted in whispers. For the first time, ears twitched not in outrage but in uncertainty. The council faltered, and used the doubt spreading so openly. Kalen raised a hand. "Also, for the record, I didn't crash here on purpose, but I'm glad I did." Silence stretched. Then, slowly, one ship powered down its weapons. Another followed. The elders barked orders, but hesitation rippled through the ranks. The people had seen their princess laugh, seen her alive in a way no ritual could replicate. And in their hearts, something shifted. The High Elder's voice grew brittle. "This cannot." But his words drowned as the auroras above flared brighter, bathing the bridge in radiant fire. The energy pulsed, resonating with the princess's heartbeat. Illyria itself seemed to answer her defiance. She turned to Kalen, tears glimmering. "If you accept me, I will give you more than a kingdom. I will give you myself." Kalen squeezed her hand, his grin softening into something steady. "Princess, I've faced pirates, warlords, and a vending machine that refused to give me my drink. None of them scared me like you do. But yes, I accept." Laughter burst from her, free and unrestrained, carrying across the bridge like a song. Kalen laughed too, not because of the danger, but because joy was the only weapon they had left. The Illyrian fleet hovered, caught between old laws, and a new truth too bright to deny. Slowly, the citizens below began to laugh as well. Quiet at first, then louder, until the plazas rang with a sound Illyria had nearly forgotten. The High Elder lowered his staff. His ears twitched, defeated. Perhaps the codes were wrong. The ships withdrew one by one. The council, fractured, fell silent. The princess stood with Kalen on the glowing bridge, not rulers, not fugitives, but something greater. Two beings who had chosen each other against the weight of tradition. Kalen nudged her shoulder. "So what now? Do we get matching crowns? Or just matching ear jewelry?" She smiled, her long ears tilting toward him. "Now we begin." Hand in hand, they stepped onto the energy bridge. It did not collapse. Instead, it carried them forward, radiant, toward a horizon where stars burned like laughter written across the cosmos. And for the first time in generations, Illyria remembered that joy could be as powerful as law. The end.